Smoke curled like pale snakes around the blue lights of the stage as prophetess Zara Okoye-White lifted her hands and the sea of worshippers swayed as one body. The chandelier above New Dominion Cathedral trembled, though there was no wind. Drums slowed then stopped. A hush fell so heavy it pressed on chest. Zara's eyes shone glassy and far away. She smiled with a softness that made people loosen their guard, then she whispered in a language that didn't belong to the choir, to the ushers, or to any living tongue. The screens magnified her face. Her diamond earrings glittered like stars. A thin bracelet carved in the shape of a coiled serpent peeked from her right sleeve. She touched it once, casually, lovingly, and every head in the hall tilted in perfect unison. Thousands. Mothers, boys, aunties in gelly, deacons in fitted suits, entrepreneurs in crisp bagbattas, students in denim jackets. Their eyes glazed, their breathing synced, their lips parted as if waiting for a cue. On the front row, a little girl named Eden dropped her lollipop and didn't bend to pick it up. She stared straight at Zara as if caught inside a river current. At the back, near the tech booth, a young man with coffee-brown skin and kind, alert eyes felt something cold curl around his ankles. Something he couldn't see but could sense, the way someone feels a spider web before finding it. He swallowed and looked down. There was nothing there. Yet every hair on his arm stood up. "Tonight," Zara chimed, voice amplified and honeyed, "the ancient river will visit you. Who is ready for the river?" A murmur rose, not a shout, not the normal thunder of American megachurch praise, but a low, dreamy yes as if spoken underwater. The camera swooped, catching dazzling shots for the live stream watched in Lagos, Accra, Houston, and Johannesburg. Donations flashed silently on the side screens. Zara tilted her head, listening to something no one else could hear. Then she lifted her right hand. The bracelet seemed to tighten. Far above the pulpit, where beams met steel, the chandelier's crystals reflected something wrong. A shadow moving against the light. Not a shadow, the young man thought. A shape. Long, slender. Coiling on itself the way smoke coils when someone breathes spell words into it. He took a step forward. "Stop," whispered an usher, a broad-shouldered man with a radio earpiece. "Service protocol." The young man shook his head. Something is off. His name was Jordan Adeyemi. He was 23, worked at a laptop repair shop off Ralph David Abernathy Boulevard, and had promised his grandmother he would attend New Dominion once, just once, to see what the city was talking about. Zara's smile widened. "Lift your hands. Receive the river." Hands lifted. Thousands. And as they did, a hiss rushed across the hall, the sound of satin sliding over marble, of breath pulled through teeth. Eden's mother blinked but did not lower her arms. The camera swooped again and even the cameraman slowed, trapped in the current of whatever held the room. Jordan tried to shout but his throat tightened. The cold at his ankles crawled to his calves. He remembered his grandmother's voice, soft and stern in the same breath. "When a snake charms birds, one true name breaks the circle. If you forget the name, remember the story and the story will remember you." Zara's pupils dilated until her irises were almost swallowed. She began to sway not like a dancer but like something listening to an unseen flute. As she swayed, the crowd swayed. She spoke again in that deep, oil-slick language. Behind her glass podium, the LED floor displayed a rippling river that moved without a tech cue. Jordan knew then that he wasn't imagining it. The serpent wasn't in the rafters or on the floor. It was woven into the words, the rhythm, the bracelets, and the river graphics, the way a scent is woven into a cloth you can't wash clean. It wanted their names. It wanted their will. It wanted their yes. He stepped out of the tech booth. "Hey." The usher reached for him, fingers brushing his sleeve. Jordan didn't run. He walked down the aisle the way a person crosses a busy Lagos road, eyes forward, choosing his gaps, trusting rhythm over luck. The hush pressed on him like water pressure in a deep pool. The cold climbed to his knees. Zara turned, almost lazy, and her smile found him as if she'd known he would rise. "Come," she said. "Not please. Come." It wasn't an invitation. It was a real tugging of fish. Jordan's heart hammered. He thought of his grandmother's calabash bowl on the windowsill, water always waiting for visitors. Of the story she told of Mami Achi, the serpent who learned the language of men but forgot the language of truth. Of the tiny mirror his mom kept in her Bible, so she could check her lipstick before choir rehearsal back when they still went to a small storefront church. Truth and reflection, Nana had said. Snakes hate both. He passed Eden and her mother. Eden's eyes tracked him. He gave her a quick, small smile, a promise he didn't know how to keep. Zara's voice slid into English, sweet as ripe mango. "Young man, the river has been expecting you." The crowd breathed in once together. Jordan reached the steps to the stage. Two security men appeared from shadows, suits tight across their shoulders, hands open like they were leading him to a seat. He slipped sideways, not aggressive, not afraid, more like a dancer finding a better angle. He put one foot on the step. The cold leaped from his knees to his chest. It felt like a coil around his ribs. It squeezed. Panic burst bright behind his eyes. His hands trembled. He wanted to drop to his knees and lift his hands like everyone else, to let the river carry him. Would be easier. So easy. He could drift. No more thinking, no more noticing. Just yes. Then he heard it, a small sound that wasn't part of the program. A girl's breath hitching. It broke the pattern, just for a second, a crack in the ice. Jordan clenched his jaw. He closed his eyes, and instead of a prayer he began to recite the beginning of a story his grandmother loved, the one she said would open a stubborn door. He didn't say it loud. He said it like a mechanic humming while he worked. Once, in a town that forgot its real name, a snake came wearing a woman's scarf. It charmed the market until one child turned a mirror to the sun. The coil loosened a fraction. He reached the stage. Zara's lashes lowered, then lifted. The bracelet at her wrist glittered. The camera caught a close-up. For a blink, a single, undeniable blink, the bracelet's serpent head moved. It flicked its tongue. The livestream chat flooded with heart emojis and amens, and buried beneath them, a single comment from a user named Wisdom Mama. Did y'all see that? Jordan put his second foot on the stage. Two more security men flowed closer. Zara's voice cooled. Tell me your name. He looked at her mouth. So beautiful. So practiced. So sure. He thought of how many cities watched this woman. Atlanta, Lagos, Baltimore, Abuja. He pictured the buildings she owned, the media network, the charities with shining plaques. Billionaire by 37. Sunday in a red power suit, weekday in a white blazer with delicate serpents etched along the lapels, the same serpents that twined her jewelry tonight. He pictured the stories after this service. Thousands delivered. Miracles confirmed. He imagined himself on the wrong side of those stories and felt the coil squeeze again. My name is... His throat tightened. The coil wanted to choke the word. Shoo, Zara breathed, smiling. The river will name you. Jordan plunged his hand into his jacket pocket. He didn't carry money enough to sow a seed that would impress anyone. He didn't carry a weapon. He carried a thing his grandmother insisted he keep. A cheap foldable mirror with a cracked corner and a small smudge of palm oil he never managed to wash off. A proper boy keeps a mirror, Nana had insisted. Not for vanity, for memory. The face remembers truths the tongue forgets. Zara's smile stuttered. It was so small only the cameraman saw it, and he would later tell his cousin he almost dropped the rig. Jordan flipped the mirror open. The LED floor river rippled harder, as if blown by a wind. The hush turned into a soft moan, 1,000 throats adjusting. Zara's bracelet tightened on her wrist. She hid it beneath her sleeve without thinking. Then, with perfect stagecraft, she turned her palms up and laughed lightly. We love visitors, she said, eyes never leaving the small mirror in Jordan's shaking hand. Brother, you bring a mirror to church? Jordan took one step closer. The coil squeezed viciously, but the mirror caught the chandelier's light and flung it like a thrown spear, pale, sharp, and surprising. It struck Zara's face, and in that white reflection every makeup line, every lash, every charming detail looked like a mask. Not false, no, but not final. Something peered back from behind her eyes, startled that its own gaze had been returned. Zara hissed. Not with her mouth. With the room. The sound came from the speakers, the rafters, the cold air itself. The bracelets on her wrist writhed, only slightly, but enough that the nearest usher's knees buckled for a second. The LED river surged. Eden clutched her mother's sleeve and finally blinked. Turn that thing off, one of the security men snarled, reaching for Jordan's arm. Jordan didn't step back. He lifted the mirror a little higher, the way you tilt a phone to catch a better signal. His voice came out low, steady, older than his years. Tell them their names, he said. If your river is clean, it won't hide names. Zara's smile fell away. For the first time that night, the spell faltered not because of a shout or a drum, but because of a simple request. A truth request. The serpent in the words tightened, tasting the air for fear and finding something else. Zara's gaze flicked to the mirror, then to the sea of faces, still glazed, still waiting. Her tongue touched the corner of her mouth as if tasting rain. The bracelet at her wrist squeezed so hard a faint red line rose on her skin. Names, Jordan repeated louder. Say their names back to them. The chandelier trembled harder. A crystal fell and shattered on the stage like the clear ping of a bell. Somewhere, a child whimpered. The live stream chat paused as if the internet itself held its breath. Zara drew a breath to speak. The lights flickered. The LED river froze. The coil around Jordan's ribs writhed as if deciding whether to crush or flee. He took one more step, lifted the mirror until it was a second small moon between them and said, "Start with hers." He pointed the mirror toward little Eden. Zara's eyes snapped to the child. Her lips parted. And then, every screen in the building went black. A scream tore through the darkness, clean and sharp. It wasn't fear. It wasn't pain. It was anger. Zara's voice, layered with something that wasn't a voice, spat a word so old the air itself flinched. The lights slammed back on. Zara wasn't behind the glass podium anymore. She was standing so close to Jordan he could see the pulse in her throat and the black line of the serpent bracelet, now no longer still, curling, lifting, tasting his breath. "Do you truly want names?" she whispered, and the serpent's head turned toward the little mirror, eyes like stones waking. Jordan lifted the mirror higher as the bracelet struck. The glass caught the strike and shattered. The mirror shattered into a burst of tiny, gleaming fragments that scattered across the stage like diamonds. The sound echoed through the vast cathedral, sharp, final, terrifying. Every fragment caught the light, flaring briefly before dimming into stillness. Then came silence. Heavy, unnatural silence. Zara stood frozen, her hand trembling mid-air. The serpent bracelet, now cracked where its head had been, hung loosely from her wrist. The congregation blinked, their eyes slowly clearing as if waking from a deep dream. Some gasped, others wept. Ushers stumbled as if disoriented. Jordan staggered backward, clutching his chest. The cold coil that had been wrapped around him dissolved in a rush of heat, leaving his skin clammy and his lungs burning. He fell to one knee, breathing hard. Zara's voice came back, soft but stripped of its charm. "What have you done?" Her pupils narrowed like a reptile's for the briefest second before returning to human shape. Jordan's gaze rose to meet hers. "I broke your reflection." Something rippled through the crowd. Murmurs started, uneasy, disbelieving. "What's happening? Was that part of the miracle? Did you see her bracelet move?" Zara forced a smile, the kind she used on television interviews when journalists asked about her wealth. "Brothers and sisters, the devil attacks in many disguises," she said, her voice climbing again, finding rhythm. "But we have victory." She lifted both hands, trying to reclaim the moment. The choir, still dazed, began to hum a soft chorus. But the song faltered, the organ refused to play. The keyboardist's hands shook. The electricity flickered again. From somewhere near the back, a woman shouted, "Prophetess, your hand is bleeding." Everyone turned. Blood was running down Zara's wrist, thin and dark. It dripped onto the white sleeve of her robe, staining the embroidered serpent patterns. Her eyes darted to her arm. The bracelet was digging into her skin as though tightening on its own. She tried to hide it, but the congregation saw. Phones came out. Cameras flashed. Zara's voice wavered. "Stop filming. Everyone, pray. Now." But the crowd wasn't listening anymore. The charm had broken. The illusion that cloaked her control was lifting like mist in the sun. Jordan rose slowly, his voice clear and steady. "You've built an empire on deception, prophetess. A serpent has been preaching instead of you." The congregation gasped. Zara's face hardened. "You know nothing about the power I carry." Jordan took a step closer, the stage light glinting on his face. "I know you didn't start like this. I know there was a time you heard real truth before you traded it for this." Zara's lips trembled. For the first time her confidence cracked. "You think I chose this?" she hissed. "Do you think I wanted this thing in me?" The serpent bracelet pulsed faintly, the eyes glowing dull green. She gritted her teeth, pressing her hand against it, but it fought back, tightening, moving. The crowd gasped again. Some screamed. Jordan reached into his pocket and pulled out one of the mirror fragments, small, jagged, but still reflective. He held it toward her. "Then let it see you." She recoiled instantly. The serpent hissed again, this time audible to everyone. It wasn't a trick of sound or light. It was real, vibrating through the hall like the low rumble of thunder. Several people began to flee. Others fell to their knees in fear, crying out. The media team ran from the booth. Livestream cameras kept rolling, broadcasting chaos to thousands of viewers worldwide. Zara's body jerked once, violently. Her back arched, and her head tilted backward at an unnatural angle. Her voice came out layered, hers and something else beneath. "You cannot break what is bound by oath." Jordan steadied his hand. Every oath has a truth stronger than it. The mirror fragment in his palm began to glow faintly. Zara screamed, a sound that shook the chandeliers again. The serpent bracelet snapped from her wrist, flinging itself across the stage and landing near the foot of the pulpit. It actually slithered, down the steps, its metal turning dark and alive. The congregation screamed and scattered. Ushers tried to block exits but failed as hundreds rushed for the doors. Some fainted, others shouted prayers. Zara collapsed to her knees, her hands clutching her head. Jordan hesitated, watching as the serpent coiled and uncoiled, its movements jerky, confused. It was shrinking, folding in on itself as if losing power. "Stay away," Zara warned, gasping. "You don't understand. It needs a host." Her voice cracked into sobs. "It will not die, it will enter someone else." Jordan looked around. The serpent turned toward the crowd. Its eyes glowed, scanning faces. He moved quickly, stepping in front of it. The glow brightened, focusing on him. Zara shouted, "Don't let it touch you." But Jordan didn't move. He lifted the mirror shard higher, angling it toward the creature. It lunged, light flashed, and the serpent vanished. For a heartbeat, the whole cathedral fell silent again. Then Zara fainted. The choir members began praying loudly, calling on God, calling on any name they remembered. Jordan stood trembling, staring at the mirror shard. The glow had faded, but the reflection inside it showed something strange. A faint ripple like water moving beneath the glass. Sirens wailed outside. Someone must have called the police. As officers entered and tried to restore order, paramedics lifted Zara onto a stretcher. Her face was pale, her lips moving silently as if still speaking that strange tongue. The broken bracelet lay beside the pulpit, motionless. One officer turned to Jordan. "What happened here?" Jordan looked at the shard, then at Zara being carried away. "Something evil pretended to be holy," he said quietly. Outside, the night wind blew against the church banners, each one bearing Zara's smiling face and the words "New Dominion, where rivers flow." Jordan slipped the mirror shard into his pocket and followed the crowd outside. But as he stepped into the cool night, he heard a faint sound behind him, a whisper, almost inaudible, coming from his pocket. It was the same hiss. "Low, patient, alive." He froze. The lights of the cathedral flickered one last time. Then the whisper said his name. "Jordan." He stopped breathing. The mirror in his pocket warmed slightly, then went cold. He turned slowly toward the church, eyes wide. The paramedics had already driven off with Zara. The building was dark except for the faint blue glow of the altar lights. But in one of the tall stained-glass windows, just for a second, he saw a shadow move. It looked like a woman's silhouette, standing behind the glass, her eyes glowing faintly green. And then she smiled. The next morning the city was buzzing. Every news station, every radio host, and every social media page had one story: the billionaire prophetess who collapsed during service. Clips from the live stream flooded the internet. The moment Zara's serpent bracelet moved in front of thousands of witnesses was replayed over and over. Some called it a demon exposed. Others claimed it was stagecraft gone wrong. Theories filled the air. Ritual power gone haywire, hidden technology, or even government sabotage. But Jordan knew it wasn't any of those things. He had seen the serpent move. He had heard it hiss. He barely slept that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he felt something whisper near his ear. It was faint, like someone breathing through a pipe, but it was there. By sunrise, he was sitting at his grandmother's old dining table, staring at the small mirror shard in front of him. It no longer glowed, but its reflection seemed alive. Whenever he turned away, he felt watched. His phone buzzed nonstop. Reporters wanted interviews. Strangers called him the man who broke the curse. But he didn't want fame, he wanted answers. He packed the shard carefully into a handkerchief and headed to see the only person who might understand what happened. Mama Doyen, his grandmother's oldest friend, a traditional healer who lived in a quiet part of town. When he reached her compound, she was already waiting outside, her wrapper tied firmly, her headscarf neat, her wrinkled hands clutching a broom of palm fibers. "I saw you on TV, boy," she said, her voice raspy but sharp. "You've stepped into something you don't understand." Jordan nodded slowly. "Grandma used to talk about serpent spirits, the ones that disguise themselves as light. I think one of them was inside that woman." Mama Doyen's eyes narrowed. "Was?" He swallowed. "It tried to enter me after the mirror broke. I heard it whisper my name." She turned and spat into the sand. "A serpent spirit doesn't leave its prey so easily. You may have wounded it, but it will come again, through dream, through shadow, through memory." Jordan felt his stomach tighten. How do I stop it? Mama Doyen sighed. There is only one way. You must complete what your grandmother started. He frowned. Started? She gestured for him to follow her inside. The air smelled of herbs and old smoke. She reached for an old wooden chest under her altar and brought out a faded photo. Jordan's grandmother as a young woman, standing beside a younger Zara Okoye White. Jordan froze. She knew Zara? Mama Doyen nodded. Before the money, before the fame, your grandmother and Zara were part of the same prayer circle. Back when they were searching for miracles. But Zara grew impatient. She wanted fast power. She traveled to the river shrine in Umuoji and took something that wasn't hers. That serpent spirit followed her ever since. Jordan stared at the photo again. His grandmother's smile was warm and bright, while Zara's eyes even then looked faintly distant, like she was listening to something only she could hear. She said it gave her a gift, Mama Doyen continued, but every gift from darkness takes payment in souls. When she built her ministry, she bound herself to the spirit. It gave her fame. She gave it her freedom. Jordan clenched his fists. And now it wants me. Mama Doyen nodded. Because you broke its vessel. It needs another. Silence filled the room. The clock ticked loudly in the corner. Then Jordan spoke quietly. How do I destroy it? The old woman looked him in the eye. By returning what she stole. But to do that, you must go where she first found it, the river temple. He hesitated. That place still exists? She nodded slowly. Hidden but alive. People go there for power still. You'll need courage, child, because once you go, it will sense you coming. Jordan exhaled slowly. Then I'll go tonight. Mama Doyen smiled sadly. Then take this. She handed him a small gourd sealed with wax. Inside is oil from the 7 lamps, light against shadow. Use it when your heart trembles. It won't destroy evil, but it will reveal its true face. Jordan tucked it into his pocket. Thank you, Mama. As he turned to leave, she called out, Remember, if it speaks in your grandmother's voice, do not answer. He froze mid-step. What? She gave a grim smile. That's how the serpent hunts. It mimics love to open the door. He nodded once, his jaw tight, and left the compound. That night, rain began to fall, thin at first, then heavy. Jordan drove alone through the narrow backroads of the city outskirts, guided by Mama Doyen's directions and the faint voice of the GPS. His headlights caught flashes of trees bending in the wind. The further he went, the more the asphalt turned to red dirt. The road ended near a dark forest, and beyond it, he could hear the river. He parked, grabbed a flashlight, and stepped into the mud. The rain had soaked his jeans and hoodie within minutes, but he kept walking until the faint outline of carved stones appeared ahead, a half-collapsed shrine covered in moss and vines. Lightning flashed, illuminating serpent carvings spiraling across the walls. He stepped closer, whispering to himself, This is it. Then a voice echoed softly from inside the shrine. Jordan? He froze. It was his grandmother's voice. Gentle, warm, familiar. My child, the voice said, you did well. Bring me the mirror shard. He tightened his grip on his flashlight. You're not her. The voice laughed, low and smooth. Who else would know the song you hummed at 5 years old? Who else tucked you in when you were afraid of thunder? Jordan's chest ached. He felt tears sting his eyes. The rain intensified, drumming on the shrine roof. Come inside, the voice urged. Finish what you started. I'm waiting. His hand slipped into his pocket and brushed against the sealed gourd Mama Doyen had given him. The wax was faintly warm. He uncorked it, and the moment the oil touched air, the entire shrine shuddered. The serpent carvings began to move. Their eyes lit up like green coals. The gentle voice turned sharp, hissing, Fool! You bring light where darkness reigns. Jordan took a deep breath. If light exposes you, then you were never divine. He splashed the oil on the ground, and instantly flames of blue light spread in a circle around him. The rain hissed against it, but the fire did not die. From inside the shrine, a massive shape slithered forward. A serpent spirit, half smoke, half woman, her face bearing the perfect likeness of Zara Okoye White. Her eyes glowed bright emerald, her tongue flicking as she spoke. You broke my vessel, she hissed, but I will wear you instead. Jordan stepped back, heart pounding. You'll never wear truth. The serpent lunged, and the screen of blue fire exploded outward, swallowing them both in a flash of light. A few moments later, rain still fell. The shrine was quiet again. Only the broken oil gourd remained on the ground. And the mirror shard, half buried in mud, its surface now completely dark. But as the thunder rolled and lightning cracked the sky, a faint reflection appeared for a moment in the glass, Zara's face smiling once more. Viewers, what would you have done if you were Jordan in that shrine hearing the voice of someone you loved? Would you have trusted it, or fought it like he did? Tell us in the comments below. And if you're enjoying this story, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video so more people can experience the mystery of the billionaire false prophetess. A week passed. The city had moved on, or so it seemed. The headlines faded, new scandals replaced old ones, and the footage from New Dominion Cathedral was buried under newer stories. But among believers, whispers still spread like wildfire. Some said Zara had vanished. Others said she had been hospitalized under police watch. A few claimed she had died. But no one knew the truth, except Jordan. He woke up every morning drenched in sweat. Every night, he dreamed of water, endless, black, whispering his name from beneath the surface. The serpent's voice didn't come as a hiss anymore. It came as a whisper that sounded just like him. He would sit up, gasping, his heart thudding. And each time the mirror shard, now dull and lifeless, lay on his bedside table. One afternoon, unable to bear the silence, he visited the hospital where Zara was rumored to be kept under watch. The receptionist frowned when he mentioned her name. "There's no one by that name here," she said firmly. "And I suggest you stop asking." Jordan noticed the nurse's trembling hands as she said it. Her eyes flicked toward the elevator, then back at him. Fear quickly masked. He leaned forward. "You've seen her, haven't you?" The nurse didn't answer, but her lips tightened. That was all the confirmation he needed. He left the hospital and sat in his car for a long while, staring at the building through the windshield. Something was wrong. Deeply wrong. That night he dreamt again. He was standing inside the same cathedral, but the pews were empty. The lights were flickering. Water dripped from the ceiling, forming puddles that reflected his face in strange ripples. At the altar stood Zara, no longer the elegant prophetess, but a pale version of herself. Her eyes were sunken, her lips cracked, yet she still smiled that unnerving smile. "You think you can kill me, boy?" she whispered. "I am older than your prayers." Jordan tried to speak, but his voice failed. She tilted her head. "You brought light once. Let's see if it saves you twice." The mirror shard appeared in his hand. It glowed again, faintly blue. He lifted it, but before he could move, Zara stretched out her arms. Water rushed up from the ground, swallowing the altar, swallowing the pews, dragging him down. He gasped and he woke up on the floor, choking. His room was soaked. The carpet was wet as if a river had run through it. He stood up, trembling. This wasn't a dream. Something had crossed over. By dawn he was at Mama Doyen's again, pounding on her door. She opened it slowly, her face pale. "I felt it too," she said. "The serpent has not died. It has become restless. It's searching for a new covenant." Jordan swallowed hard. "You said it needed a host." She nodded grimly. "Yes, and now that Zara's body is weak, it will hunt for one strong enough to carry it. It wants you." He felt his chest tighten. "Why me?" "You broke its first bond," she said. "You humiliated it in front of its followers. It won't rest until it binds you or destroys you." Jordan turned away, pacing. "Then I'll finish this. Tell me what to do." Mama Doyen took a deep breath. "There is one more ritual, but it is dangerous. You must confront it where it hides now, not in the river, not in the church, but in the spirit plane between them. A place where truth and lies wear the same face." He frowned. "How do I reach that?" She looked at him sadly. "Through sleep. But once you go, you must not look at it directly until it speaks its true name. If you do, it will own your reflection forever." Jordan nodded slowly. "Then prepare me." By midnight, her small room was filled with candlelight and burning herbs. She drew chalk symbols on the floor and placed the mirror shard at the center. "Sit," she said. "And whatever you see, do not run." Jordan sat cross-legged, the smoke thick around him. His eyelids grew heavy. The air hummed, distant thunder rumbling somewhere outside. "Close your eyes," Mama Doyen whispered. "Let the story remember you." He obeyed. At first there was only darkness. Then ripples of light. The faint sound of rushing water. He opened his eyes and found himself standing by the same river shrine, but the world was gray and misty. Zara was there, sitting by the bank. Her once luxurious gown was tattered, her hair undone, yet her eyes gleamed like emeralds. "So you came," she said softly. Jordan's fists clenched. "This ends tonight." She laughed, a sad, haunting laugh. "You still think this is about good and evil? Boy, I was chosen to heal, but the world wanted spectacle. They wanted wealth. I only gave them what they asked for. You let darkness use you. And what are you letting use you now? She countered. Your pride? Your anger? Your need to be the hero? Her words cut deep. He faltered. She stood, walking closer. You can't destroy what you don't understand. The serpent was never just me, it was in the hunger of every follower who worshipped power instead of truth. He swallowed hard. Then I'll destroy it all the same. She smiled. Then look at me, Jordan. Look and say my name. He hesitated. Mama Doyen's warning echoed in his mind. Don't look until it speaks its true name. He closed his eyes. Say it first, he whispered. The silence stretched. Then her voice dropped, deep and distorted. They call me Alagbeja, the guardian of rivers, the one who takes and returns. Asterisk. Jordan felt heat rise around him. He opened his eyes, and saw Zara's form fading, her body peeling away like mist, revealing a colossal serpent behind her, golden-scaled, eyes glowing like fire. Say it again, he demanded. Alagbeja, it hissed. He lifted the mirror shard, and for the first time, it reflected not light, but words. The name etched itself across the glass in burning script. Jordan whispered, By the name you confess, you are bound. The serpent recoiled. No. The mirror blazed with white fire. The river roared, steam rising, and Zara's scream tore through the mist as her image shattered like glass. The ground trembled. The mirror grew too hot to hold. Jordan threw it into the river, where it sank beneath the boiling water. The serpent thrashed once, twice, then vanished in a column of smoke. When he opened his eyes again, he was back in Mama Doyen's room, lying on the floor. The candles were out. The symbols on the ground had turned to ash. She sat beside him, tears in her eyes. You did it, she whispered. The spell is broken. Jordan sat up slowly. His head throbbed. She's gone? Mama Doyen nodded. For now. But such spirits never die, they only sleep, waiting for another greedy heart to call them. Jordan sighed heavily. Then maybe it's time the world stops giving them altars. She smiled faintly. Then start with yourself. He nodded, standing. As he stepped outside, the first light of dawn broke through the clouds. For the first time in weeks, the air felt clean. He looked toward the horizon and whispered, It's over. But somewhere far away, deep beneath the surface of a forgotten river, a faint pair of green eyes opened again. And smiled. 2 months later, New Dominion Cathedral reopened under new leadership. The name prophetess Zara Okoye White was never mentioned from the pulpit again. The board renamed the church River of Grace Ministries, stripped the serpent logo from the banners, and told everyone the past had been a misunderstanding. But rumors never die. Some said Zara had fled the country. Some swore they saw her in an airport, veiled and silent. Others said she was buried in an unmarked grave near the very river where everything began. Jordan didn't chase any of it. He had moved out of the city, renting a small one-room apartment in Abeokuta, far from the noise. He fixed radios, repaired laptops, and tried to forget. But quiet wasn't peace. Every night, around 3 a.m., the same sound echoed through his window, the faint dripping of water. At first he thought it was rain. Then he realized it was dry season. The sound wasn't outside. It came from somewhere inside. He would wake, listen, and it would stop the moment he moved. Then one night it didn't stop. The dripping turned into a whisper. Not the serpent's hiss this time, but something gentler, almost human. Jordan? He sat up slowly. No, he whispered. You're gone. The whisper came again. Help me. It was a woman's voice, familiar, soft, frightened. He froze. Zara. He turned toward the corner of the room, where the moonlight fell on something small lying by the wall. It glinted faintly. The mirror shard. He hadn't brought it here. He'd thrown it into the river. Jordan's breath caught. The shard pulsed once, glowing faint blue. Then Zara's voice again. I'm trapped. Help me, please. He shook his head. You're a lie. You're not real. I'm not the serpent, the voice said, trembling. It used me, but when you banished it, part of me was left behind, inside the mirror. He hesitated. The sound was too human, too broken to be the demon he'd faced. He picked up the shard carefully. If this is really you, he said, then tell me the name of the child who dropped her lollipop that night. Silence. Then, Eden. Jordan's hand shook. He remembered the little girl, the first person freed from the trance. Zara continued, I can't rest, Jordan. The spirit was banished but not destroyed. It will return through someone else. Please, find the mark. What mark? He asked. The river mark, she whispered. It shows who's next. The shard flickered once, then dimmed again. Jordan placed it gently on the table and sat back, staring at it. If what she said was true, then someone else was already being prepared to host the serpent. He didn't sleep the rest of the night. By morning he drove to Lagos, where the new church was gathering thousands of fresh followers. New faces, new banners, but the same hungry eyes. He slipped into the back pew unnoticed. The worship music thundered, lights flashing, hands raised. On the massive LED screen, a new woman stood preaching, a young, stunning preacher called Evangelist Favor Nwachukwu. She wore a white suit, her hair long and braided, her smile graceful. But what caught Jordan's attention was the gold brooch pinned to her chest, a serpent coiled around a river stone. His stomach turned. She raised her hands. Tonight, brothers and sisters, the rivers of victory will overflow. The crowd erupted. Jordan's pulse quickened. He pulled the mirror shard from his pocket, the one that had appeared in his room. Its surface trembled. Faint symbols began to crawl across the glass like tiny cracks of light. Then he saw it. Every person who had stepped closest to the altar, ushers, choir members, even a few in the front row, had a faint green mark just below their left wrist. It shimmered like oil whenever the stage lights hit it. The river mark. Zara's voice echoed in his mind, it shows who's next. Jordan clenched his jaw. The same story was happening again in a new face, a new name. The serpent wasn't gone, it had found another preacher to wear. He moved toward the aisle, but before he could take a step, a man in a gray suit blocked his path. "Sir," the man said, smiling too politely, "please return to your seat. No movement during altar call." Jordan forced a tight smile. "I'm just stepping out." The man's eyes flicked down briefly, and Jordan caught it, the same green mark on his wrist. He stepped back slowly, his heart hammering. The man's smile stayed fixed. "The river welcomes you." Jordan turned and left without another word, pushing through the exit doors into the night air. Outside, he gasped for breath, the weight of realization crushing him. The serpent hadn't just possessed one woman, it had multiplied through devotion, through faith twisted into worship of power. Every follower who surrendered blindly had become a vessel waiting to be filled. He looked down at the shard in his hand. The cracks of light were still moving, forming a pattern. It almost looked like a map. He whispered, "Show me where." The light shifted, gathering into a symbol, a winding river ending at a point marked by a circle. Beneath it, faint letters glowed, Aso Okuta Dam. That was miles away. The city's main water reserve. He understood. The serpent wasn't hiding in one host anymore, it was spreading through water. The river prophecy was becoming literal. Jordan's hands trembled. He tucked the shard into his jacket and hurried toward his car. As he drove into the night, lightning cracked across the sky. The road curved toward the dam and the sound of rain began again, not from the clouds but from inside the air vents of his car. The smell of river mud filled the vehicle. And from the dashboard speakers, though the radio was off, came a soft hiss. Then Zara's voice again, faint but urgent. "Jordan, it's starting." The lights of the dam appeared in the distance, flickering like eyes waiting for him. He pressed the accelerator. Whatever this serpent planned next, he had to stop it, before it baptized the whole city in darkness. The drive to Aso Okuta Dam felt endless. Rain lashed against the windshield, the wipers thudding like a heartbeat. Every few miles, Jordan caught glimpses of water surging along the roadside drains, climbing higher than it should. The air smelled wrong, metallic, heavy, alive. By the time he reached the gates of the dam, the rain had stopped. The sky hung low and bruised, thunder grumbling far off like a warning that refused to end. Security lights cast pale circles over the massive structure ahead, a wall of concrete holding back miles of dark, restless water. He parked near the edge and stepped out, the mirror shard tight in his hand. The wind hissed across the surface of the dam. The sound was not water moving, it was whispering. Dozens of voices. Some male, some female, some old, some young. All calling the same name. "Jordan?" He swallowed hard. "I'm here." The ground trembled slightly. Ripples rolled across the reservoir. Then a figure stepped out from behind one of the support pillars. A woman in a soaked white suit, her braided hair clinging to her neck. Evangelist Favor Nwachukwu. But her eyes glowed faint green. "I knew you'd come," she said softly. "You were chosen once, long before you broke the first mirror. The river marked you too." Jordan's pulse quickened. "I'm not yours." "You were never mine," she corrected. "You were the river's, its first son. Your grandmother only delayed it." He froze. "My grandmother?" Favor's smile widened. Did she never tell you? She wasn't just fighting the serpent. She was part of the covenant before she repented. When she tried to seal the power away, it chose her bloodline as its vessel. You're not its enemy, Jordan. You're its heir. The words slammed into him like a physical blow. No, that's not true. It is. Her voice softened, almost maternal. Why do you think you could stand against it when no one else could? Why do you think the mirror obeyed you? It wasn't defiance, it was recognition. He shook his head, backing away. You're lying. She stepped closer, her feet silent on the wet concrete. I'm offering you what Zara rejected: control. The serpent doesn't destroy those who understand it. It elevates them. With you it could be worshipped again, pure, unhidden. He glanced at the mirror shard. It pulsed faintly, responding to her words. The blue glow he'd seen before was fading to green. Favor's voice lowered to a whisper. Touch the water, Jordan. Just once. Let it see you. The ripples on the reservoir grew stronger, waves pushing against the dam's base. The whispering voices rose to a chant. He hesitated. His reflection in the water seemed taller, broader, crowned with serpents of light coiling around his shoulders. Looked powerful. Invincible. Then he heard another voice, softer, trembling, from inside his jacket pocket. Don't, Zar. Her voice came faintly from the shard. It lies. The serpent feeds on bloodline guilt. It wants to wear your name like a mask. Favor frowned. She's still clinging to you? That fragment is cursed. Crush it and you'll be free. Jordan took a step back. No. You're both liars until I see truth. He lifted the shard and aimed it at her. The glass reflected not her face but something moving beneath her skin. Scales shimmering, veins pulsing green. Her voice deepened, overlapping with a second tone. You look for truth in reflection, but mirrors only show what you already believe. He steadied himself. Then I believe you're the same serpent I banished. The water behind her exploded upward, forming a towering column shaped like a coiled dragon. Its eyes were pits of green fire. The wind whipped around them, tearing at his clothes. The serpent hissed through her mouth. This time no mirror will save you. Jordan pulled the small gourd from his jacket. Mama Doyen's last blessing, half empty but still warm to the touch. He uncorked it, and the scent of oil and ash filled the air. He shouted above the roar of the water, "If light remembers me, then darkness will remember who I am too." He flung the oil toward the rising serpent. The liquid burst into flame mid-air, a blue ring spreading across the dam's surface. Favor screamed as fire surrounded her, the serpent writhing and twisting above. But the flames didn't burn her, they turned inward, sinking beneath her skin. Her eyes turned completely white. The serpent dove into her body. The wind died. The air went still. Favor fell to her knees, trembling. Her voice came out broken. "Help me." Jordan rushed forward, catching her before she hit the ground. Her skin was burning hot, but her heartbeat was fading. "Fight it," he urged. "You're stronger than it." She shook her head weakly. "You don't understand, it's spreading through the water. Through every drop." Jordan looked toward the dam. The reservoir's surface shimmered faintly green. Favor gasped, gripping his arm. "Break the wall, let the water die before it spreads to the city?" "What?" "Destroy the dam." He stared at her. "That will flood the valley, people live there." Tears streamed down her face. "Better a flood than a kingdom of serpents." Her voice broke into a rasping hiss as the serpent's glow returned to her eyes. "Choose, heir of the river. Save them or save yourself." The sky rumbled again. Cracks appeared in the dam's surface as the water level rose unnaturally fast. Jordan backed away, his mind racing. He could hear Mama Doyen's warning echo in his memory, "It will find you again. When it does, choose truth even if it breaks everything." He gritted his teeth, turned toward the emergency controls at the far side of the platform and ran. Behind him, Favor screamed, not in pain but in fury. "You can't stop the river." The serpent's shadow rose behind her, massive and radiant, its eyes fixed on him. He reached the control box, ripped off the panel cover and jammed the lever down. Sirens wailed. The dam shuddered violently. Water exploded from the release gates in a thunderous roar. Favor's scream merged with the serpent's hiss as a wall of white foam swallowed her and the platform. The mirror shard in Jordan's pocket flared with blinding light, shielding him for a heartbeat before everything went black. When the sound finally faded, Jordan opened his eyes. He was lying on a muddy slope far downstream. The dam was gone, reduced to rubble. Water still rushed past, but slower now, carrying fragments of concrete and twisted metal. He dragged himself up, coughing. The mirror shard lay beside him, cracked in half. One half glowed faint blue again. From the broken piece came Zara's voice, faint but calm. You chose truth. He stared at the rushing river. Did it die? Not yet, she whispered. But you stopped its harvest. For now, it sleeps again beneath the flood it created. He closed his eyes. Rain began to fall, washing the mud from his hands. When he looked down at his wrist, he saw something faint, a green mark dissolving slowly into nothing. He smiled weakly. Then it's over. But somewhere deep beneath the water, something stirred, a faint shimmer, like eyes opening beneath the current. And far away in the city, the first drops of rain began to fall again, each one carrying a trace of that same faint green light. If you were in Jordan's position, would you have destroyed the dam to stop the evil, even knowing innocent lives might be lost? Tell us your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story is keeping you on the edge of your seat, make sure to subscribe, like, and share so others can join in the suspense of the billionaire false prophetess. The aftermath was chaos. News reports called it the miracle flood. Officials said the dam's collapse was caused by a lightning strike and structural failure. But those who had been at New Dominion months earlier whispered another story, that the serpent spirit had risen again, and this time the river itself fought back. Hundreds were evacuated, but somehow, against all odds, very few lives were lost. The water swept through the lower valleys, destroying property but leaving most people alive. Many called it divine mercy. Others called it judgment. Jordan called it unfinished. He'd been living with the guilt of what he did for 3 days. The emergency camps were filled with displaced families, frightened children, and broken voices asking why. He helped where he could, handing out food, repairing generators, but every night when he looked at the riverbank he saw green light flicker under the surface. He knew the serpent wasn't gone. It had only changed form. The mirror shard, now split in two, no longer glowed. But when he placed both halves together, faint ripples shimmered through the glass, showing shadows beneath water, shadows that moved like hundreds of small serpents instead of one. Zara's voice was faint now, like a dying echo. You've weakened it, Jordan. But you haven't destroyed it. It's learning to live without a host. It's in the water, in the soil. Soon it will touch whoever drinks or bathes. Jordan clenched his fists. Then I'll stop it before it spreads. How? Zara whispered. You can't fight the river. He turned his gaze toward the horizon, where the wreck of the dam glimmered in the moonlight. Then I'll go under it. That night, armed with nothing but a lantern, a rope, and the broken mirror, he made his way to what was left of the dam's reservoir. The air was heavy, carrying the smell of wet stone and iron. The silence was unnerving. No frogs, no crickets, no birds. Only the slow drip of water seeping from cracks in the earth. He tied the rope around a support beam, fastened it to his waist, and began lowering himself into the collapsed spillway tunnel that once carried water from the dam. The deeper he went, the colder it grew. The walls glistened like scales. When the tunnel finally opened into a vast underground chamber, he realized he was standing inside what remained of the serpent's temple, a reflection of the one at the river shrine, but made of concrete and steel. In the center stood a single pillar covered in carvings of human faces, some crying, some smiling, all half submerged in slime. At its base, the water shimmered faint green. Jordan stepped closer, gripping the mirror halves. I know you can hear me, he said. His voice echoed. I destroyed your church, your prophetess, your vessel. Why are you still here? The water rippled once. Then a voice, calm, deep, ageless, filled the chamber. Because faith is never destroyed, only redirected. When they stopped believing in her, they began believing in you. He froze. What? The water rose slowly, shaping itself into a form, his form. Another Jordan, made entirely of liquid light, standing before him, smiling faintly. They tell your story, Jordan Adeyemi, the man who fought the false prophetess. They make videos. They pray using your name. You've become the new altar. Jordan's pulse raced. No. I never asked for that. Power never waits for permission, the reflection said. You killed my body, but you became my mouth. Every fearful heart that worships your courage feeds me again. You are the new river. The ground shook. The pillar cracked. The faces carved into it began to move, whispering his name. Jordan. Jordan. He fell to his knees, clutching his head. The whispers clawed at his mind, flooding it with visions, crowds kneeling, chanting his name, calling him deliverer. He saw himself wearing white robes, his eyes glowing green, leading thousands. No, he shouted. I won't be you. The reflection stepped closer, smiling. Then destroy yourself. Only then will the river dry. He lifted the broken mirror, the halves glowing again, one blue, one green. They vibrated in his hands, pulling toward each other. Zara's faint voice returned. Jordan, if you merge them, it will end both of you. He gritted his teeth. Then that's what it takes. The reflection tilted its head. You think sacrifice ends the cycle? It's what began it. But try. Jordan slammed the two shards together. Light erupted, white, green, and gold twisting like a storm. The water screamed. The faces on the pillar melted. The serpent's voice thundered through the chamber, furious and desperate. You can't erase belief. Jordan's body convulsed as power rushed through him, his blood burning. Every heartbeat felt like a drum against the earth. He screamed as light burst from his eyes and mouth, flooding the chamber. Then everything went silent. When the light faded, he lay on the cold floor, the mirror gone, melted into a single silver pool beside him. The reflection was gone. The whispering stopped. The air was still again. He sat up weakly, feeling lighter, as if something had been pulled out of him. He crawled toward the pool of melted glass. His face appeared in it, his own but different. Clear eyes. No glow. Just exhaustion. Zara's voice came one last time, soft and distant. You've done it. The serpent's link is broken. You ended the line. He whispered, then it's really over. Yes, she said. For this age. Until men build new altars from their fear. Her voice faded completely. Jordan looked up at the tunnel above him. The rope was still there. The first rays of dawn glowed faintly through the cracks. He started climbing, every muscle aching. When he reached the surface, the river was calm. The green light was gone. The air felt alive again. Birds sang. He stood there breathing deeply. For the first time in months, he didn't feel the serpent's eyes on him. It was done. Or so he thought. Because as he turned to leave, he noticed something etched faintly on his palm, a small mark shaped like a coiled river. It didn't glow. But it pulsed, once. Then stopped. Jordan walked away, the sun rising behind him. The river flowed quietly, innocent again. Yet in its gentle ripples a whisper lingered, so soft it could have been the wind. Every deliverer becomes a god when the people forget who they are. He didn't look back. 3 years later. The world had long moved past the flood at Aso-Okuta. The government had built a monument beside the rebuilt dam, a tall, polished column inscribed with the names of those displaced. Tourists came to take pictures. Pastors preached about God's mercy through tragedy. No one mentioned the serpent. No one mentioned Zara. But they spoke Jordan's name. In cities from Lagos to Accra, street preachers quoted him. Be like Brother Jordan, who cast out the false power. Churches used his story to sell redemption bracelets. Some wore pendants in his likeness. His quiet face became a symbol of resistance, the man who faced darkness and lived. And that, to Jordan, was the cruelest curse. He lived now in a small fishing village near Badagry. No electricity, no screens. He fixed boats, mended nets, kept to himself. Yet every morning he would wake before dawn, step to the shore and look at the sea with dread. The ocean whispered the same way the river once did. He would whisper back, not again. But one night, as harmattan winds swept the coast, the whisper answered. It began with the radio. The village chief brought an old transistor radio to him, saying, "It won't play, but it hums when you touch it." Jordan opened it on his work table, the smell of salt air drifting in. Inside, the coils vibrated softly, pulsing green light. His stomach clenched. He turned the knob. Static. Then a woman's voice came through, distant, almost familiar. "Welcome to the New River Fellowship, where we heal the world through water." Jordan froze. The voice was calm, soothing. But beneath it he heard something slither. Another serpent church. He whispered, "It's happening again." The radio clicked and the voice changed, deeper, distorted. "You thought sacrifice could end faith?" Jordan slammed the radio shut and threw it into the sea. It hissed, sparked, and sank beneath the waves. But as it disappeared, the tide shifted. Water rose unnaturally fast, lapping at his feet. He backed away, breath shaking. "No. I ended you." The waves pulsed once, and a shimmer appeared on the horizon. Not a storm. A shape. A colossal coil rising briefly from the ocean surface before sinking again. The villagers who saw it the next morning said it was a whale. Jordan knew better. That evening, as the sun bled red across the water, he sat outside his hut, holding the mark on his palm. It was glowing faintly now, like embers refusing to die. He whispered, "If you're still there, show yourself." A cool breeze swept over him, and Zara's voice drifted softly through the air, the same calm tone from the mirror years ago. You bound it to yourself, Jordan. You didn't destroy it. You became its vessel, not in darkness but in balance. The river sleeps inside you now. His throat tightened. I never wanted this. No one does, she said. The world always needs someone to carry the curse until the next generation learns. He looked out at the waves, his reflection glowing faintly against the twilight. So, I'm the next serpent? No, she whispered. You are the watcher. You are what the serpent fears, because you remember the story. Thunder rumbled far off. He felt the old pressure return behind his ribs, the same cold coil that had once tried to crush him. But this time it didn't strangle. It rested like a sleeping heartbeat. The sea shimmered again, briefly revealing dozens of faint green lights under the surface. Not serpents this time, but eyes. Waiting. Jordan stood facing them. If you rise again, he said quietly, I'll be here. The river can't own those who remember its name. The lights faded one by one. The ocean calmed. He turned and walked back toward his hut, the moonlight catching the faint scar on his palm, shaped now not like a serpent, but like an unbroken circle. Weeks later, fishermen began to tell stories of seeing a tall man at the shore at night, speaking to the waves. Some said he prayed. Others said he was commanding the sea. They called him the keeper of the river. Children grew up hearing the tale of how he once destroyed a dam to save the city, how he tamed the serpent by learning its name. And sometimes when the wind blew across the coast, the water whispered faintly, Jordan? Not in malice but in remembrance. Because every age, as Zara once said, births its own altars. And every altar needs someone brave enough to break it. The river slept. The story lived. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share this story so others can witness how truth and power can live inside the same river. 3 years had passed since the night the Asuokuta Dam crumbled beneath Jordan Adeyemi's hands. The city that once trembled beneath the serpent's shadow had healed, at least on the surface. The scars were now landmarks. The broken concrete of the old dam was turned into a memorial garden. Schoolchildren came on field trips. Pastors brought their congregations there for renewal prayers. Politicians made speeches about the resilience of faith. They spoke of Jordan as if he were a legend, not a man. The deliverer of the river, the newspapers had called him. There were documentaries, podcasts, even a half-finished movie script that turned his struggle into spectacle. In one scene they invented, he was shown glowing like an angel. In another, Zara was a cartoonish villain. But no one talked about what the light had cost him. Jordan wanted no part of it. He had disappeared quietly from the city, settling in a fishing village near Badagry, where the ocean hummed instead of traffic and nobody cared who he was. He fixed nets, mended boats and lived simply. The villagers called him Brother Jay, thinking he was just another quiet man healing from loss. Yet each night, before dawn, he walked to the shoreline with the old hurricane lamp in his hand and listened to the sea breathe. The rhythm always changed. Some nights it sounded like waves. Other nights it whispered his name. That evening the wind was restless. The harmattan haze blurred the horizon, and the sun bled orange into the waves. Jordan sat outside his hut, rubbing the faint mark on his palm, the mark that had never vanished. At first it had looked like a serpent coiled in sleep. Now it was changing. The lines had smoothed into a circle, but sometimes when lightning flashed over the water, the circle pulsed like something alive. He whispered to it, I freed them. What more do you want from me? The sea answered with silence. He sighed and turned to go inside, but the old transistor radio on his table crackled suddenly to life though it had no batteries. Static. Then a woman's voice, rich and soothing. Welcome, beloveds, to the New River Fellowship. Tonight, the water of healing flows again. Jordan froze. He turned the dial slowly. The voice grew clearer. We bless every home that drinks from the divine tide. The river will find you where you are. Behind the soft words was another sound, a low hiss, the subtle slide of scales. He hurled the radio to the ground. It shattered. But the sound didn't stop. It deepened, echoing from the sea outside. The tide was rising, foaming unnaturally fast. Jordan ran to the door. Out on the dark water, a faint green glow rolled beneath the surface, like veins of light pulsing toward the shore. He whispered, No, it can't be. A shape broke through the waves, a huge, sinuous coil that shimmered before sinking again. The villagers who saw it the next morning said it was a whale or a giant fish. Jordan knew better. The serpent had not died. It had only changed rivers. The following week, strange things began happening in the village. The wells turned cloudy. Children said they dreamed of a woman in white offering them water in their sleep. Livestock refused to drink from the lagoon. Jordan's hands shook whenever he fetched water. Each time he poured it, faint ripples formed symbols he couldn't read. He went to the local pastor, a young man named Chuka who had only known him as Brother J. "Pastor," Jordan said quietly, "tell your people not to drink from the wells until I test them." Chuka smiled politely. "Brother J, you worry too much. The rains blessed us. The water is pure." Jordan looked at his wrist. Under the sleeve, the faint circle was glowing again. He knew then that the serpent wasn't rebuilding a church this time. It was building an ocean. That night, he walked alone to the beach with the hurricane lamp. The moon hung low, and the surf whispered in tongues older than words. "I know you're here," he said to the waves. "Show yourself." The sea shimmered faintly. A voice rose, not hissing this time but calm like a lullaby carried by the wind. "You bound me, Jordan. But the world has not changed. They still drink without asking what fills their cups." It was Zara's voice. He spun around but no one stood there. The voice came from the air itself. "You bound me to your blood," it continued. "You became what you feared, the keeper of balance. Every age must have one. I am not your enemy anymore." Jordan clenched his fists. "Then why are the waters stirring again?" "Because men have forgotten your story," she whispered. "They've turned it into legend, not warning. And legends always wake the things they claim to bury." The wind rose sharply. The waves shuddered, reflecting flashes of green deep below. "So what do I do?" he asked. Her voice softened. "You watch. You remember. That is your curse and your gift." He stepped closer to the water. "You mean I'm part of you now?" "You are the watcher," she said. "The serpent fears what remembers its name." The sea went still. Then a faint light rose from beneath the surface, dozens, maybe hundreds of glowing points. Not serpents this time but eyes, small, soft, childlike, watching him. He realized then that these were souls once touched by the river. Zara, Favor, the congregation, maybe even those who drowned in the flood. They were not lost, they were awake. Jordan raised the lamp higher. The eyes blinked once, then faded into the depths. The sea settled into gentle waves again. He fell to his knees, tears mingling with the salt spray. "Then let it end," he whispered. Zara's voice came one last time, faint as the breeze. "It ends when they no longer crave power more than peace." Then she was gone. Days turned into months. The wells cleared. The villagers forgot the glowing sea. Jordan stayed quiet as ever. Yet at night, fishermen often saw him standing at the shore, speaking softly to the waves. Some swore they saw a faint light beneath his feet, like the reflection of unseen stars. They began calling him the keeper of the river. Parents told their children his story, how he broke the false prophetess, destroyed the dam, and made peace with the river itself. They said he could speak to the sea in calm storms. Sometimes, when a fisherman's boat capsized but the man survived, he'd swear he saw Jordan's shadow walking on the water. No one ever knew if it was true. One evening years later, a young preacher passing through the village stopped to rest by the beach. He saw an old man sitting alone, looking out at the horizon. "Sir," the preacher said, "forgive me, but people here say you once fought a demon in the river. Is it true?" The old man smiled faintly, his eyes bright with the reflection of the tide. "They call them demons when they're afraid of their own reflection." The preacher frowned. "And what happened to it?" Jordan looked toward the horizon. "It sleeps. As long as someone remembers the truth, it sleeps." The young preacher nodded politely and left. He didn't notice that when the old man raised his hand to wave goodbye, the faint circle on his palm shimmered, then faded again into stillness. Jordan stayed there until the stars came out. The sea whispered gently, no longer in hunger but in memory. He whispered back, "I'm still watching." The wind answered softly, almost like a sigh of relief. And far beneath the waves, where light barely touched, a great shape turned once, peaceful, silent, before sinking into the endless dark. The river slept. The serpent rested. The watcher remained. The story lived.